Hi, this is Chrissy with Everyday Tidbits, and thanks for joining me for another What's for Dinner. Today I'm going to show you how to make cheesy basil pesto chicken, tomato sauce with sausage and meat, and lasagna. Tonight we're making cheesy basil baked chicken breasts, and you're going to need some thinly sliced chicken breasts for this, some shredded cheese. I'm using mozzarella. You're going to need, I used a half of container of grape tomatoes, and we're going to have those. You're going to need salt and pepper to taste, and also some Italian seasoning. You're going to need some softened cream cheese and some basil pesto. You're going to want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have my softened cream cheese in a bowl, and to that I'm going to add 2 heaping tablespoons of basil pesto. And then I'm going to cut my cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, whatever you can find, in half. And the larger tomatoes I'm going to cut in thirds, and then I'm going to cut them in half again. I'm going to spray my baking dish with some cooking spray to make sure that nothing sticks to it. And then I'm going to line my chicken breasts to fill my baking dish. And as you can see here, I probably should have used a bigger dish, but it's okay, it'll work. And then I'm going to take my cream cheese and basil pesto mixture and just spread it evenly over the top of my chicken breasts. And on top of that, you're going to add your mozzarella. I used about a half a cup to a cup, depending on the size of your dish and how many chicken breasts you used. Now spread your cut up tomatoes over the top of that. And your final step is to add your salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning right over the top of your dish before you put it in the oven. And now we're ready to put it in our 375-degree oven for about 25 minutes. And here's our finished dish. It smells so good. This recipe you're going to need some sweet or spicy Italian sausage. I'm using 1 package. You're going to need some ground beef. And for mine today, I'm using 85% lean, and it's about 1.23 pounds. And you're also going to need a package of chuck steak cubes. And this one is about 1.19 pounds. So the recipe for the meat is not exact. You can add as little or as much as you'd like, but this is the base. This is what I'm going to start with, these 3 meats here. This is my favorite brand of tomatoes, and I use crushed tomatoes with basil. So I'm going to use 6 cans of crushed tomatoes with basil, and they're the 28-ounce cans. I'm going to use a couple of cloves of garlic. This is something that I eyeball. I don't know. I might use 4, I might use 6, I might use 10. It all depends on taste, because it's going to cook all day, and all day long I'll be tasting it. So if it needs more garlic, I will add more garlic. So I'm also going to use 1 large Vidalia onion, some salt, some Italian seasoning, a little bit of basil, and I'm going to use extra virgin olive oil to saute my meat in. I'm going to add a little wine. I will let you know how much I use later on. I don't know, it could be a half a cup, it could be a cup, depending on taste, and a couple of bay leaves. So this is what I use for my sauce. I do not add sugar. I do not add tomato paste. That's just my preference. So let's get started. So here I'm gonna peel and chop up my garlic, and then I'm gonna chop up my onions. Since my sauce pot is huge, I'm going to be sauteing the meat to brown it in 1 pan and then transferring it over to another pan. That's the easiest way for me to do it, because this pan is really tall and I'm really short. So that's what works for me. So I'm gonna add my olive oil to the pan, and then I'm gonna add my first type of meat, which is my chuck roast. So the object here is just to sear the meat on both sides. We don't want to cook it all the way through yet. When we add it to our sauce pot, it's going to cook all the way through as it simmers all day in the sauce. You can see me here adding some salt. I do season all my meat in between, so everything is seasoned. After adding the chuck roast to the pot, I'm going to add the sausage in next, and then I'm going to sear that on both sides as well. And next, I'm going to add my ground beef and brown that up too. This olive oil sizzling on my stovetop was making such a mess, and it was splashing everywhere. You'll notice me start to clean it. I clean as I go. Let me know in the comments if you guys do that as well. I don't know how many times I have burned myself doing this. I'm gonna add my diced onions and my garlic to my ground beef and brown and soften it all together before I add it to the big stock pot. And now I'm just gonna dump that entire pan into my stock pot, onions, all the juices, all the olive oil, everything, all that flavor goes right into that big stock pot. Then I'm gonna start adding each can of my crushed tomatoes. I know I said 6 in the beginning, but I did wind up using 7 because I need enough sauce from this recipe to build a lasagna and to have extra to add on top. Then you want to give it a good stir to make sure your meat and sauce are incorporated together before you start adding all your seasonings in. So I added some Italian seasoning, basil, salt. I wound up using a cup of wine to start with, and then a few bay leaves. Then you want to give that a good stir to mix everything together before you put your lid on. I do not seal the pot. I put the lid on like cockeyed in a way so that the steam can escape. And this is going to simmer on top of my stove all day. It smells delicious already. Okay, so it's time to peek and stir. My house smells really good. This is literally going to cook for hours, anywhere from maybe 4 to 5. You cook it until you get to the consistency that you like. The purpose is to get all the flavor out of the meat and also get all the water out of the sauce. I prefer a thick sauce, so mine will cook for a few hours. And when you stir, just make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom, because anything that gets stuck to the side or stuck to the bottom, that's where all your flavor is. So make sure you give it a good stir, scrape the sides, mix it all around, and then taste it. You might need more salt, you might need more garlic, you might need more wine. That's all up to you. But make sure that you stir it at least once or twice per hour. All right, 3 hours in, I gave it a stir, I tasted it. Turns out I needed more garlic, so I wound up adding 3 more garlic cloves and a little bit more salt. And now that we're all done, it is time to build our lasagna. Okay, now we're gonna make our lasagna, and for this you're gonna need a box of uncooked noodles. Do not cook this ahead of time because we are making lazy girls lasagna. Mozzarella, I use a lot of it. I put some in between each layer, and then on top I used a large container of ricotta cheese. Then you're gonna need some tomato sauce. This is my homemade. You can use any sauce you want. You're also gonna need some eggs. I used 3 of them in this. Garlic powder, Italian seasoning, some basil, and some salt. I also use some cooking spray because I like to spray my dish ahead of time so nothing sticks to it. So in a bowl, I'm going to add this entire container of ricotta cheese. And then we're gonna add all 3 eggs. And then you add your salt, your garlic powder, your Italian seasoning, and your basil. And then give it a really good stir until everything's incorporated together. And now I'm going to spray my baking dish with my cooking spray to make sure nothing sticks. And now this is the fun part. We're going to start with a layer of sauce, and then we're going to put our noodles. We're going to put them on dry, not cooked. And then we're going to do a layer of ricotta and a layer of mozzarella. And then we're going to repeat this process. You want to make sure that you put enough sauce in between the layers because we are using the noodles dried. And then this is going to sit in the refrigerator overnight and all the noodles are going to absorb the liquid. So when you bake it the next day, all the noodles are going to be soft and you won't have to worry about it. And you're just going to keep repeating that layer until you get to the top. And we're going to finish off with a nice, generous heaping serving of mozzarella over the top. And then we're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. The next day, I put this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes until it's heated all the way through, and I served some garlic bread on the side. It was delicious. We also had the sausage and all the meat that was in my homemade sauce as well. It was perfect. Thanks for joining me. I hope everybody had a great holiday, and if you tried my recipe, please comment below and let me know how you liked it. Take care.